Hello, Be Awesome listeners. This is episode 63 of the Keeping It Local editions of the Be Awesome podcast. And I got to give another shout out to Easton Chamber of Commerce, Karen Newman. She is absolutely crushing it for our town with getting new businesses online and connecting businesses that are established. And she is getting most of my local businesses that are on this podcast. And here is one of them that I have had the good fortune to spend a little bit of time with on the phone. We ran into each other briefly a few weeks ago, but I knew absolutely nothing about what she did. Mary Beth Curreri, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good. Well, welcome to your podcast. This is your first podcast.
It is, yeah. Thanks.
This is wonderful. I get a lot of first timers, so I can always say, "Hey, remember when you did your first podcast with me?" You've got a really interesting business that I got to learn a bit about, collaborative therapies. Walk me through, a little bit of the history and some of the things that you do and some of the things that you help people with. Because I'm going to be a customer when this thing's all done with. I'm sold.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love that.
Yep.
I guess things started for me. I went to Northeastern University back in the day. Very working class university back then. And I studied physical therapy, and the beauty of Northeastern is the co-op program. And so very early on, I got introduced. I did a co-op in Brockton at a private practice, and I was introduced to sort of a holistic way of treating people. A lot of my friends thought it was kind of weird to sort of look at the whole body. It was sort of not typical, but it formed a framework for me. And every experience I had after that co-op was always about looking at the entire person. So it just sort of snowballed from there, where I started to study different types of very holistic therapies. And I ended up becoming certified as a zero balancer, which is a really beautiful type of body work that uses pressure and traction, manual pressure and traction, to release tension in the body. And the focus is on the joints. And as a physical therapist, most people hurt themselves at their joints. They have trouble with their joints. So it's really gentle. So there's very low risk of sort of hurting somebody, but big potential for helping people. And when I started my first private practice, long time ago, I rented space from a psychologist and became friends with the social workers that worked in the building in Stoughton, and really led me on this sort of whole mind-body approach, where I was working sometimes like in the same room with social workers and psychologists to help people who sometimes had suffered terrible traumas that were affecting their lives in lots of ways, but also limiting them. And I learned so much. And so here I am all these years later, where I still study. I just took a class last weekend on reflexology of the face and the ears. It's kind of ironic because we're being told not to touch it. Don't touch your face right now. Don't touch your face. But there are pressure points in the face and in the ear that affect the entire body. And so my family had to help me because I did the class on Zoom. And so my kids and my husband had to come and be my practice people. And it was amazing. I was working on my husband's face, and I could see his shoulder tension just melting away. And I work on his shoulders a lot, and my hands get so tired. But I was pressing lightly on his face and affecting his shoulders. There's just always things to learn. And I feel really grateful to be in this particular vein of work. I love it.
Well, yeah, I could tell when we talked yesterday. My dad's a Husky. He went a long time before you did, but he used to hitchhike from Canton every day up 138 to go to Northeastern, and I grew up at Matthews Arena watching them play and going to the Bean Pot with them every year. And
that's awesome.
Back in those days, you could smoke in the arenas.
Yeah.
So he would smoke his pipe and make everybody angry and yell at the referees. That was my Northeastern memories as a child. So what are some of the things? So what are some of the reasons people would go to see you? Like what are they challenged with, or there's a whole kind of gambit of things, right? That people would find a reason to come see you.
Well, you and I were talking about sort of word of mouth, and it's sort of this weird thing where I haven't really advertised myself because I am a physical therapist and I've been around this area for a long time. People, other physical therapists know me and they know the way that I work. And so oftentimes I get a lot of people who have finished their physical therapy. They've exhausted their physical therapy benefit. They've actually achieved their goals. Their strength is good, their range of motion is good, but they just don't feel themselves. I'm thinking of a young girl I treated years ago. She was a college soccer player. She had kind of a devastating injury to her ankle. She had a couple of surgeries, but she ended up on crutches for a very long time. She was stronger than she had ever been. Her range of motion was perfect. She couldn't run. She could run, but it didn't feel good to her. She developed a neck and shoulder problem. She was a waitress. This was an issue for her. Her aunt knew me. Her aunt is a nurse. Her aunt knew me and said, "You really need to go see Mary Beth." And, within 3 sessions, she was back to running. The neck and shoulder pain went away. What we discovered was that time that she spent on the crutches, she had developed these kind of compensations for, from being non-weight bearing for all that time. And that even though she had rehabbed her ankle 100%, the rest of her hadn't sort of been released, or she hadn't released that tension. And so it really, that changed the quality of her life. She was a young person in her 20s. So a lot of people come to me that way. I do see a lot of families, because once one person in a family comes in and has the work, it's very, I'm not sure the right word for it, but it's very satisfying work for me to do. But people feel very cared for. So I've had parents bring their kid. They'll say, "Oh, my son hurt his back playing soccer or, working landscaping. And I want you to be the one to take care of him, because I know, the doctor told me to give him this medicine or that medicine. It would just get better. But I knew you would." It's a very gentle way of handling the body, but because it takes care of the whole person, it feels very good and not dangerous. And there's tremendous potential to really get, what I want to say, like completely better.
Mm-hmm.
So for that reason, I end up seeing a lot of families, neighbors, mothers-in-law, people like that. So I don't want to say, some people say we're alternative, because as if we don't like traditional therapy. And that's not true. I am a therapist. There's a lot of value in physical therapy, but sometimes it doesn't completely clear the problem. And people don't feel like integrated. They don't feel like they've totally come back to the way they were before they were ill or they had their accident. Or sometimes people have been through like a series of things where, they were sick, and then when they went back to work, then, they had some sort of injury, and then, then maybe there was some sort of stress. Somebody else in their family got sick, and so they couldn't take care of themselves. So that kind of scenario I see a lot. I have a lot of clients who are caretakers, and they're looking for ways to sort of keep themselves healthy. And a lot of people who are self-employed like myself, who don't want, if they have a history of hurting their back or having carpal tunnel, they prefer to keep themselves healthy, because when you're self-employed and you're out of work, you're really in trouble.
Oh yeah.
So they want to keep themselves as healthy as possible.
Yeah, I was just listening to you, and I was thinking that you must have such a rewarding and amazing feeling when you're done. When you must look forward to the next day of work with the difference that you're making in a lot of these people's lives. And it's interesting, because you're right. Sometimes when people say holistic healing, or they alternative healing or medicine, people sometimes cringe. I think part of it is we're not educated and we're not knowledgeable. And was one of the reasons why I really thought that this would be interesting to have you on, because you were talking to me yesterday and I was just sitting here going, man, I've got some of these issues. I've got some of these challenges and I can't figure out how to fix it. And I've gone through all the gambits, and sometimes, medicine or physical therapy works and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes we need to figure out other things that we've never done before, get out of our comfort zone. And that's what I was listening to. I'm just like, wow, this might be something that could benefit some of my aches, pains, and challenges that I have, and got me excited.
Sometimes I think, a lot of times I think physical therapy does work, but I think the person's body has a hard time sustaining that the gains that they've made because
Hmm.
there are other areas that haven't been addressed.
Yeah.
Things that are sort of under you're not really conscious of them on a day-to-day basis, or they're things you've pushed to the back burner. Like, I know I kind of slouch. I know my posture is not good when I'm at the computer, or I know I know they push it to the background because it's not like right at the forefront. It's not the most burning issue, but that issue is sort of like preventing the body from holding on to the goodness that they gained in physical therapy. So yeah, I can't explain. Most people that come when they want a friend to come, they say, I don't even know what to tell them that you do, because it almost seems too gentle to matter. But I do have a lot of people get off the treatment table and they scratch their head. They're like, I don't know what just happened, but I feel fantastic. Because it's sort of the unburdening, like releasing some of these old tensions that have been hanging around for so long that you start to think it's normal. It feels like part of you. But when you let go of it, then you notice, oh geez, like I'm not slouching as much as I used to, or whatever. Certain things have dropped away. And I think I do think after COVID is over, a lot of people are going to need to let go of a lot of tension. So hopefully I will have a surge of a different kind when the virus passes.
Yeah, Mary Beth, you bring a great point on post-COVID. You're currently not seeing patients currently because of what's going on. That's correct, right? So,
Yeah, so because I'm a manual therapist and everything I do is hands-on, I have not, in the past 2 weeks, I have had two emergency. There's existing clients who have come in because they're sort of like in a pickle. We, do all the precautions. I'm very hopeful that we're going to be in a couple of weeks, maybe starting off slowly and, not having people together in the waiting room and,
mhm.
wearing masks and that sort of thing. But I have not been working throughout the quarantine period because I know other physical therapists are working in different settings, but because of the nature of my work, I haven't been.
Hmm. I
Mm.
mean, and that's got to be tough on you, with loving what you do and how much you love what you do. What do you think would be some new or increased patient personas? Like, what do you think that, we're in this unknown, right? We're in 60 days of self quarantine. We're doing a whole lot less with our lives. We're working from home. We're engaged with family 24/7. A lot of normal practices or comfortable practices that we do daily have been disrupted, right? Are you seeing and hearing things? Are people calling you and saying, "Hey, I've got this problem. Can you help me with it?" Or what do you think some of the post-COVID is going to look like for people that have some challenges or that should probably consider giving you a call and try to see if you can help them?
Well, I have to say, I have the most awesome clients. People have been texting me every week telling me how much they care about me and can't wait for me to come back to work. So I'm not, um, I guess I'm not so worried about people coming back because I have a lot of clients who are nurses, and also my sister was a nurse, and so I have a lot of connections to the nursing profession. I have been routinely sending group messages like, listen, guys, this is what I do. And even if you have never been in for a treatment, I'm here and I'm offering, because I do feel like the people that were on the front lines are going to need a little bit of patching up. They've really been, I call it soldiering. I mean, right, they're not in the military, but they were
Hmm.
deployed, right?
Hmm.
And I guess I happened to see the parade that we had in town this week where they
Hmm.
went by the supermarkets and they went by
Yep.
the healthcare facilities. And I realized that I probably need to find a way to reach out to some of the other people on the front lines. And we're all thinking about the nurses, but there's lots of other people that have been carrying on, and they have been soldiering on, kind of holding themselves tight and, going out to battle every day. I have I felt almost guilty a little bit because I miss my work. I'm so like, I really miss my work. but I'm also comfortable here in Easton. It's so easy to take a walk in nature. I'm not living in an apartment building where I feel afraid to go outside and touch the elevator button because I might get germs. My kids are safe. All of my children have health insurance, and you know what I'm saying. I've
Hmm.
felt a little. We have plenty to eat. I felt a little bit guilty about that. But I think at my age, I feel also very trusting of the process and understanding that humanity has been through all sorts of really terrible things. And I think spring is a time when you see all these little things popping up every day. You see, when I walk, I see a new flower, a new bud, something moving, a nice brook bubbling. And I also feel that in the community where things that have been closed are starting to open up. You're doing things. I'm feeling like I'm connecting to people. Our church is doing a food drive on Mother's Day. I'll get to drive by and feel that vibe a little bit, where we've been away from that because they've been closed. So I feel positive about the future, and also understand that there's been a lot of pain and suffering that's happened during this time, and I know it's not over. And I also understand that even in reopening things, there are risks. And so we all have to be really pay attention and be respectful of each other.
Hmm.
Mm.
No, 100%. It was interesting. You said all that stuff and then talking about safety and the things that you have, but you didn't tell anybody the amount of toilet paper you have. So that ensures your level of safety. But, jokes aside, you're spot on. Um, that my brother works at a grocery store, and considered an essential employee. And, I worry about him and then the number of people that he interacts with. But if he doesn't go to work, those shelves don't get stocked. They're not able to ring this stuff up, and people don't get to have fair amounts of food for themselves or to donate to food pantries or anything else. There's countless people that are out there day in and day out. I mean, I've been with it. I have done everything. I think that this whole thing hit me quickly because I had some of my clients actually died from COVID. So it was a direct thing it was real. And a family member of mine was in a senior health living center that we pulled him out, and a couple days later, it was over 30 of the 97 patients were tested positive, and many died. And so this stuff is real. And if you have the opportunity to stay in, yeah, stay in. This sucks. It's terrible. It's taking a toll on business. Not everybody's in the same boat. There are people that have to go out. There's people that have to do things. There's people that are struggling significantly. And one of the things that I'm hopeful to see more of is more of the appreciation for everyone, not just one group, but just a general appreciation. I love seeing these parades and a lot of these things. When things were fine, Chance is almost 2.5 when he was born. I tell the story. We're in I'm losing my track of what the birthing, the maternity ward at the hospital, and they have a bakery on the first floor. So, 2 shifts. Every shift, I would go down and I get all these baked goods and I put them on the nursing station. And when we were leaving, one of the nurses came and said, "Hey, you're the muffin man," and I was like, "Oh yeah," and I didn't think anything of it. My biggest thing is, our second son is born. I want these people to eat. I want them to be happy. I want them to know that they're appreciated. And, and I just kind of sat there and listened to her for a few minutes. And I'm like, man, everybody's got to be giving you muffins and coffee and everything else. And she says, no, in a 12-hour shift, we're lucky if we can stop and even see the break room. And we very rarely get anything of any sort. And that's why we really appreciate having the muffin man. It was like they wanted me to come back and have more kids so I can bring them, muffins and pastries. But I think that, before COVID, I think we lost a lot of sense of that appreciation and that general personality and personas. I had turned myself in with you, seeing you a couple of weeks ago. I was running and I was late and I was focused on myself getting somewhere. And I was just, you stopped me and you wanted to have a couple words. And I was just kind of like, hey, I got to go. And now if I could have it all back, I'd talk your ear off and you'd want to go. So, it's one of those things that we all just have to kind of figure out and realize and almost take a step back and loosen up our shoulders, if not coming to see you and have you press our face, figure out another way to get rid of some of that tension and challenge that we all have.
Yeah. I think that we've really, for me anyway, I've had a shift in perspective. And so my mom lives up in Dorchester, and she's in her 80s, and she's got her own place. And so I sort of do a distance type of visit. I drive up and try to keep myself separate. But yesterday I went up and I got stuck behind the trash truck in Dorchester on a side street, and you sit behind that trash truck, you cannot pass.
Yeah.
But normally I would be cursing.
Oh yeah.
I had such gratitude, and I watched those men like they had to get out of the truck and lift, because there are cars parked on both sides of the street. And it was like a marvel to me, where I'm telling you, I have spent my life like cursing if I got stuck behind a trash truck. So I think that, there's a silver lining in everything. This is a terrible tragedy that's happening. So many lives are being lost, but it's also an opportunity for us to shift our perspective and see what's important. And I do think it informs all of us. It will change, hopefully, the way I work. Hopefully I'll be a more compassionate human being moving forward. I do hope I'm more appreciative. I really hope, I want my kids to grow up to be appreciative and compassionate people. And I hope that in this time that we find ways to appreciate people and to let them know that we care about them and that they're important. And I think as we move out of it, I hope we can hold on to that respect for each and every one of us, no matter what job we do or don't do. When we can work or can't work, that's not really the point, right? We're all human beings, so we're all having an experience. It might be a different experience, but we're all having some effect to what's happening.
Yeah. It's funny you were telling that story, and I didn't drive a trash truck. I drove a spring water delivery truck for 7 years in Dorchester and Southie and downtown Boston and the People's Republic of Cambridge, where every street is a one-way going the wrong way and you can't drive trucks anywhere. And I can tell you, every Monday and Tuesday there was swear words on both sides, because they would swear at me and then I would swear back at them, and it was this hurry up, I'm late, and then where's you being late and not being able to properly time yourself, my problem. And it was kind of a self, not a human awareness, it was a self-awareness of ourselves being the most important people in our own lives, and it should be to a point. But we should also be realizing that, like you say, those guys have a job to do, and they might not like having to do that and tie up your day. If in a perfect world, it'd be 2 lanes wide and you can go around, but that they didn't design the streets. So looking at things in a different perspective is definitely huge. So you do zero balancing. Is there any other specialty that really you really think is making a big difference in people's lives?
Well, so I talk about zero balancing all the time because it's my favorite thing, and because there's so much work with the bones and the joints, and being a physical therapist, that's my gig, my thing. But there's all sorts of other, I want to call supportive work in the body that I do. So I have some training in lymphatic drainage, and I know that's a hot topic right now because everybody likes to detox, but that's basically paying attention to like the second circulatory system in the body, paying attention to the lymph nodes and the lymph vessels, and sort of helping the body to activate that system. Is craniosacral therapy, which is a unbelievably light type of body work that focuses on the brain and the spinal column. And it really, that is so super light. It's wonderful work and helps people that have concussions and all kinds of headaches and TMJ. It's really helpful for those sorts of things. I do myofascial work, which is really about the connective tissue in the body. I practice Qigong and teach people how to use Qigong, which is, I always struggle to explain it, but basically Qigong means to gather and circulate energy. And so energy being your life force. So that was a tremendous learning curve for me to understand that if I was feeling low energy, I didn't have to eat a cupcake or drink caffeine. I could sort of do a little exercise that involved breathing and meditation and some movement, and I could cultivate some new energy for myself. That really, and that also has been transformative to some of my clients who have chronic illnesses that leave them really depleted. To know how to build up energy for yourself is really tremendous. So oh, and I forgot to talk about my cold laser. So I'm really fascinated with the cold laser, which is a light therapy that treats pain and inflammation. And that's been getting a little bit of press lately because you can use it for all different kinds of things. But for me, in my practice, I use it mostly for pain and inflammation. So people that typically would have so much pain that even though the treatment I was doing was helping them, they still might feel like they needed to take medicine or that they needed a cortisone shot. The laser is a tremendous resource in bringing the inflammation down so that people can start to get into better alignment and start moving again. So those sorts of things.
That's a whole bunch of stuff, and
I'm kind of old.
And what of it, and none of it sounds painful in any capacity. It sounds like it's almost it's all easy, painless.
Well, so I don't, life is not a painless experience, but what I want to say is the work, because it's manual and it's hands-on, I have the ability to adjust the work. So I can be very light or I can use deep pressure. And so for quite a long time, I got a lot of clients who had fibromyalgia because they were not doing well in traditional physical therapy. They were getting exacerbated by the traditional physical therapy. Then they would come here, and because I had the ability to back off and work really lightly, they were just so surprised that they were able to progress. You needed that tactile. I needed to be able to feel what was the right amount of pressure for that person. So sometimes the work is a little bit deep. Most of the time it's pretty light. I am a not like super strong human being. I have a good amount of strength in my hands because I use them all the time, but there's very little risk, I want to say, with the work. So most people that come in, I say, it's not going to make you worse. So why not take a chance at getting better?
You don't walk into the room when you're going to see a patient and say, here comes the pain train.
Years ago, I had a client with a head injury. He called me the physical terrorist. It's a different phase of life, but there was that whole period of time years ago where they would say that the physical therapists were there to just really kind of, beat you up a little bit. And that's not my style.
Yeah. Well, let's before we wrap up, the last question I probably have is, what does a session look like? Like, what's the amount? Like, how much time does someone need to spend with you, and before they, how often do you go, and things like that?
Yeah. So my style of work is a little bit different from traditional therapy because typically when you go into PT, you sign up for 2 or 3 times a week for a month, or 4 to 8 weeks typically. Here it's different. We have this rule of 3. We usually like people to commit to 3 sessions. Usually they're about a week apart, and the sessions are an hour long typically, but you can do a half-hour session. And if I'm working with a kid, they might only need a half an hour. But it's sort of like that idea that one session builds on the next session. So I'm just getting to know you in the first session. So please try not to judge me. I'm just meeting you. And then the second session, now we sort of know each other better and your body can relax more into the work. And then by the third session, you're telling me, oh, this is really helping me. I'm coming back. It's not me saying, oh, you need 6 more treatments before you're better. It's sort of activating your own inner knowing about what's good for you. So typically, like a typical thing would be come 3 times once a week, and then we start to move it out where you're going to come maybe like once a month. A lot of people say, oh no, I'm not ready for that. I want to come in 2 weeks. And it's sort of like their inner knowing that I don't think I can go a whole month. I want to come in 2 weeks. And then I have loads of people who come once a month for years because they just realize a benefit in the treatment. So it's different. And those sessions typically, like I said, are an hour long, but I do have some people who like a half hour. They feel like that's plenty. Yeah, and so that's the way it goes. And the once a month is so as long as it takes you to feel like you're really growing and learning. And I might give people exercises or recommend different activities for them. But usually people are telling me what they want to do. I would like to go back to riding my bike, and I'll say, great, if you're going to ride your bike, I would like you to do this stretch and avoid this. Or if you're going to start hiking, I would like you to do it this way, make sure you do this. And then they just take off. It's great.
That's great. Well, I'm looking forward to my 3.
All right.
I'm in. As soon as this thing's lifted, let's get me written down. I get time. I'm here for a while. I can do once a week for 3 weeks, and then I'm sure I'll follow up with it. I'm excited about after talking to you. I got juiced up. I was excited. I was like, let's get this COVID behind us so I can get in and see you. So I know how to get a hold of you. How do people get a hold of you? What's the best way to get a hold of you? How could they get more information? You're on social media and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I think we talked about this. My website is out of date because people usually come at me from word of mouth. And so my cell phone is really the best way to reach me. And people often text and say, hey, I saw you on whatever, or my neighbor told me about you. My name is, I'm looking for an appointment, and I'll either call them back or text them. And if you don't text, you can always call me, but my cell phone number is on the website, which is collaborativetherapies.net. My cell phone number, I'm happy to give it out, is 508-243-0233. I love to get text messages because, I have kids also, and sometimes you can't just pick up the phone and have an adult conversation because you're in the middle of it.
Yes.
So I'll always if I don't get back to you right away, send me another one because you know how it is. You forget things sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and you're busy. You got a lot going on. You got a great following, strong following. And that phone number again is 508-243-0233. I love when business owners are given their cell phone numbers as a point of contact and a reference. I just find that has been one of the most rewarding things for me in the last month of doing these podcasts is the local businesses, the small business owners that are doing that. And I'm not saying it because it was me, but I'm not sure if you're on LinkedIn, but on LinkedIn, I have been making my posts since COVID, letting anyone that I'm connected with know that I'm here, call me anytime, and putting my direct phone number to get me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there hasn't been another person in the social media world that's done that. It's just an assumption that, I post and I just do this, I just do that. And it's because of big businesses. It's because you're part of a business and you're not in it to win it. And the local small businesses that are just like, hey, you want to talk to me? I want to do business with you. I want to help you. I want to make a difference in your life. Here's my cell phone number. Just call me. I absolutely love it. So fantastic on you for doing that. Thank you for sharing. And I'm going to put your website and your phone number and your email on this podcast episode, on the YouTube channel, and on our social media. And hopefully, I know you got a great following of folks that you're making a difference for. Hopefully you get some new ones out of this that you can make a difference and put a bigger smile on their face. Loosen up those shoulders. I'm sitting here listening to you and talking. I'm like, my shoulders too tense. I'm getting a kind of a complex here. But thanks a lot for giving us some of your time and your insight and educating us a little bit on holistic healing. Like I said, I knew very little. I know a little bit more, but I know I'm really excited about the idea and the opportunity to see how it works for me. And we'll have to do a follow-up episode after my 3 with you. And
that would be nice.
Yeah, we'll absolutely do that. So appreciate you. Stay safe and keep up the great work. And I'll see you in person sooner than later.
All right. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you. And that will do it for another episode of the Keeping It Local Be Awesome podcast. Got a couple more. Been real busy this week. We actually did a full inventory. We're transitioning, as I said in the podcast. We're going to 100% American made, everything 100% recycled materials and compostable materials for shipping supplies. So we're going to have a very minimal impact on the environment moving forward with our shipping materials that we're going to be sending those bags out to. Found a little treasure trove in the back of the storeroom with some of our 1-year anniversary super awesome shirts. They're limited sizes. And in the last week, we've started to manufacture face coverings. We're going to have a couple of different offerings of that, but right now we've got a combo spandex cotton that's being manufactured right here in the United States with the Be Awesome logo on it. And we put a pre-order out there. We're going to have May 17th, put a pre-order out there. And in the last week, we've had a bunch of orders, shirts and masks. And I can't say thank you enough for you, because that's really what I'm doing at this point. selling shirts and face coverings. And what I found is 50% of all orders in the last 2 weeks have all been in my town, which means I get in my truck and I drive around and drop things off and actually have some fun with it. And so what I've decided to do until we hit our 2-year anniversary, June 21st, we're removing any shipping and handling charges on all of our products. So you're not going to pay anything no matter where you live, because the support in Easton has been so great in my hometown. I think everybody should get free shipping and handling for the time being. And we've put all of our shirts, every single one, doesn't matter what size, all the way up to 3XL at $24.99. So if you're a 3XL or you just want to wear a 3XL, it's $24.99, which would have been $31.99 if you ordered it before last night when we changed it. So go to beawesome.com, pick up a shirt, pick up a face covering if you want to do. We've had a couple people interested in mass orders of the mask face coverings. Give me a shout, Josh at beawesome.com, or call me direct 508-238-5711. This has been one heck of a ride, but as you can see, I get great people in my community like Mary Beth that are here. We keep getting phenomenal people in this little slice of life that we call Easton, Massachusetts, and we appreciate being able to share a little bit with you. So, and remember, if you can be anything, be awesome. Have a great day, everybody.